Welcome, everybody. Thursday, January 11th. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. Here to talk to you about the latest news from Ukraine. Little bit more of election news kind of stuff. Well, election-ish news. Anyway, welcome, everybody. So I'm trying to get Instagram rolling here, and it's being evil. There we go. It took me a second there. The sound was excellent. Good. Well, who knows what's going on? This makes no sense. I mean, I've got my good mic, so it should be good. But why all that interference happens when I'm in Chicago, it's pissing me off. Anyway, let me get TikTok rolling here. Yeah, I go to Chicago and everything gets futzed up. Who knows? All right, let me get like I said, TikTok here. TikTok live. Ukraine war update live. Find a well-lit area. I'm in a well-lit area, but thank you for asking, TikTok. All right, hang on one quick sec. There we go. Boom. Mirror. Boom. There we go. Ooh. Anyway, hello all. Futzed. I don't know. It kind of came to me, the word futzed. Hello, Otanbat. Hey guys, welcome. I am good. Have you only been lurking, Evie? I don't know. Anything major today? I'm going to be pissed at Biden in a second. I'll tell you guys about that. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything major today. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Ash. Luna. Oh, anyway, hey guys, welcome. How are we doing today? Make sure my mics are working here. Laka can't hear me. If the rest of you can hear me, send Laka a message and say, Laka, maybe leave and come back or something. But if the rest of you, this is on YouTube. I'm assuming the rest of you can hear me. Who was that? Elizabeth, thank you for the gift, Elizabeth. Right, you guys can, I'm sorry, YouTubers can hear me, right? Yeah, okay, good, Valerie, thank you. Yeah, just you guys, because I'm thinking that might be it. Thank you, Critter. Appreciate it for the gift. Okay, everybody else is hearing well. Yeah, Laka, your connection may be bad for whatever reason. Thank you, Buford. Buford or Bulford? Bulford, I like Buford, though, because Buford sounds like the old name. Buford. Anyway, yeah, YouTube. Well, now I'm back in DC, so my connections are always good here. I mean, the speed is fast, but also I think, well, I use my Michael Jackson microphone. I have my good microphone. Well, for you guys on TikTok, I've got this microphone, but it is a good microphone as well. But for YouTube, yeah, it should be. It's as good as it's going to get on YouTube. Actually, I may need to finally. I think I may end up buying one of those. I forget what they're called. The things you attach to microphones that boost the microphone. A booster. Thank you, Eva, for the gifts. Lori too. I think I've got a mixer. It's a device you use to boost the signal from the microphone. And it's not always necessary. And my friends told me I didn't need one. My friends who actually know this stuff. Hey, thank you, Blue Ariel. But nonetheless, something's happening recently that's messing with the sound. So I may have to. Yeah, YouTube, TikTok is fine. TikTok is always fine. Information on the Houthis? No, they're being idiots. I read today the article. The Houthis are basically in Yemen are pissed because the Brits are basically, looks like the Brits are getting ready to bomb, Yemen to go after the Houthis. And the Houthis are all upset and whining and we're going to get even if you do. It's like, okay, whatever. A preamp. Is that it, John? Thank you. Yep. Because, super duper, my bicycle Mark, who's a very good friend of mine, who's a brilliant podcaster out in Amsterdam, said I didn't need the preamp, and he was right until now, but now I'm kind of wondering if I need the preamp. So, but this stuff is always hard. It's always hard. My laptop, oh, that's right. I've got to change that picture. Mods, try to remind me in the mod chat on Discus later about changing the Chicago listing on my image here. Cloud boost for this mic is normally needed. I don't know what any of this stuff is, so I'll have to see. Andrew, sorry, thank you. Marcy, Andrew is saying, we'll start the news in a minute, but since folks are already chatting, we can chat about Ukraine. Andrew's saying, as a Ukrainian, I'm honestly starting to lose faith. I'm hearing rumors that F-16s are being delayed again, and what's with U.S. aid for Ukraine? Will it pass Congress? I have not heard any rumors, but, I would not be surprised if F-16s are delayed. I'm going to jump ahead and start with a story. Andrew's getting me angry. Not angry at you. I'm angry sympathetically with Andrew. Hey guys, let me do a quick welcome. So welcome guys, I'm John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. It's my nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern time, US, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Also throw in some election news and some other stuff too. Let me think here. Yeah, I'm gonna, Andrew, let me go back to the order I was gonna go in, because we're getting to that stuff in a second. I'll get to yours in a second. Who is that? Elizabeth and Shane, thank you, and Ash. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm reading your guys' comments, and I shouldn't read the comments before I do the actual news summary because it throws me off in a good way. But I start to go down rabbit holes answering questions and thinking of stuff. Let me stick with my notes first. Thank you, Adventures, and then we'll do the typical half an hour in. We'll switch, and I'll start doing the other stuff. Take your guys' questions. The way this works, as you guys know, is I'm going to go through the news. I sort of try to aggregate the news as best I can to give you guys what's going on, and then we'll do questions. If you want to ask questions, you can now. I may or may not see your questions right now because I'm reading my notes, but we will try. Otherwise, second half of the show is all questions and stuff. So, I'll be looking at all the screens for those. Otherwise, please do keep the gifts coming. I always mention this, but I do this for free and I do it full time. And the way I'm able to afford to do this is your guys' gifts help pay the bills. That is my salary. Nobody pays me. The Ukrainians don't pay me. The Israelis don't pay me. But if you're listening, but you guys are the ones who pay me. So if you can, I appreciate it. Please keep the gifts coming. All right, let's get rolling here. Thank you, Timothy. So there's been like a lot of swatting news, sort of election related, Trump related at least. Thank you, Annie, for that. We now have had multiple judges and multiple folks, thank you, Simon, related to Trump's and Kempe, related to Trump's various prosecutions getting swatted. And swatting is basically, SWAT is, what's the Special Weapons and Tactics, I believe is what it stands for. It's an acronym. And in America, the SWAT teams are the special police you send in, or they're almost like military in a way, that you send in when there's a hostage crisis, or a mass shooter or something that's really high-level violence. You send in the SWAT team. And they're a special action, really quick team that comes in. Now, the FBI comes in too, of course, but SWAT is its own unique thing. So it's called swatting when people call the police and they pretend that there's some kind of mass shooting event going on, but there really isn't. And they call and say, there's been a shooting at this school, they're holding hostages or whatever. Usually they do people's homes, actually. There's a shooting in the home. We understand he's got a gun and he's threatening children. And the police come running. Last year, a guy actually got killed. And they do this as a joke. They do this as a joke on people or to harass people. Thank you, Ellie. And just lie and claim that there's a shooter in your home. So the police will come with guns blazing, and I wouldn't be surprised, thank you, Elizabeth, the people doing it thinking maybe you'll get killed. They're doing it to harass. Now, thank you, Asir. Recently, we've had a growing spate of swatting. It has been Republican and Democratic both in terms of the victims. There was Marjorie Taylor Greene was swatted along with some Democrats, and I can't remember who, several weeks ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the really crazy, thank you, Succeed, MAGA Republican, but I mean, she's literally the crazy one. She's super Trump, but she also is the one that was talking about Jewish space lasers, about Jews having these lasers in space that can burn forests. I mean, she's out of her mind. She's an anti-Semite, big surprise. She's crazy. And she is one that was swatted recently. And again, I can't stand this woman, but you don't do this. This is akin to trying to get somebody killed because people have been killed with this. Well, what we've had recently now is that we've had judges and people related to the Trump prosecutions. The special prosecutor, we now know, was swatted on Christmas Day. We now know that the judge in the election interference case was swatted, I believe, 2 days ago. The judge in the other case, the one in New York, that's the fraud case where they did the closing arguments today, that judge, he was swatted this morning at his home, and they've done it at their homes, all of them. Very scary stuff. I did a video about this on TikTok. I will say one thing. I read recently, and I forget where, but I read recently about some of these bomb threats, and not necessarily the swattings, but these bomb threats and things like this, that some of it appears to be coming from abroad. Now, not necessarily the Swattings, right? But keep an open mind on this. Coming from abroad, that it might be foreign actors. Well, first of all, some of it could be Americans being horrifically obnoxious, right? But some of it as well could be foreign actors. And if you think about it, okay, remember all the crazy stuff that happened in Europe at the beginning of the war in Ukraine when someone, and we pretty much think it was the Russians, was like were they calling in bomb threats and things to foreign embassies, to Western embassies? They were sending like bags of, was it feces or was it dead animals? It was something really weird that they were sending to embassies. They sent it also to like Spanish government ministries and things like the defense ministry and stuff. And we believe it was the Russians. The thing is, some of this could be Americans. Some of this could be Russians. Guys, if I were the Russians and I wanted to sow mayhem, who would you swat? You'd swat the far left and you'd swat the Trump right? You'd go after both, right? I mean, you'd go after Marjorie Taylor Greene and you'd go after the judges that are going after Trump. So you're basically going, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like Trump's biggest defender in Congress, right? So they literally went after Trump's biggest defender, and the people attacking Trump, so to speak, were the two that got swatted. It makes me suspicious. I'll put it that way. And I know the FBI, I mean, I'm going to guess here because they're smart. I know the FBI is keeping an open mind as to whether this is domestic or foreign. But again, think about all the stuff Russia has done in terms of election interference and everything else in the U.S., how they've tried to like stoke the animosities. This could be them. I don't know, but it could be, because it certainly makes people, it sows, exactly, another life is saying it sows chaos. It sows chaos. It makes us pissed against each other, right? The Trumpers get pissed that people did it to Marjorie Taylor Greene. The anti-Trumpers get pissed that it's happening to the judges going after Trump. It just makes things more like this. Anyway, just again, I have no proof of this, but I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's a crazy theory. We just keep an open mind. In any case, let's talk Ukraine now. Today is day 686 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Russia is continuing to bomb Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine. Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine. I believe its population is 1.5 million. The largest city is Kyiv, which I think is around 2.5 million. The Russians have been hitting Kharkiv with some of the heaviest bombing of the war. 2 rounds of missile attacks hit the region yesterday. 1 person was killed, a 48-year-old woman. 12 people were injured in the second wave of strikes. The Russians are also reportedly continuing offensives in the east, around Kupiansk, Liman, Bakhmut. A lot of that, thank you, Mustard, a lot of that is around here, okay? Here and a little bit north, basically, is where a lot of the fighting is still going on from the Russians. No news as to whether the Russians are pushing ahead, but it's where a lot of the fighting is going on. And what's important here is, even though the conflict in many ways is at a bit of a standstill, the Russians and the Ukrainians are both a bit tired out, there still is success in small ways. Whether the Ukrainians are blowing up weapon systems, whether the Russians are having some advance, even though it's small, moving in some areas. So there are daily updates, even if the whole war overall isn't changing much. British Ministry of Defense. The British Ministry of Defense had an interesting update today talking about the weather and the impact of winter in Ukraine, which I thought was very interesting. Let me just tell you about this. Actually, I'll read it to you. Ukraine is currently experiencing a cold snap, with temperatures struggling to rise above freezing over the next week, leading to lower ground temperatures. Okay, right? So the ground is freezing more. As the ground freezes, the conditions for cross-country movement will almost certainly improve throughout January and into February before thawing in March. I'll read more in a second. What happens in Ukraine is, everywhere that has a winter, as you go into winter, they first get the rainy season, right? So, October, the ground gets wet. There's storms. It starts to get colder too, which is not fun for the troops either, but the ground gets wet and muddy. You can imagine wet, muddy ground isn't great if you want to walk, right? Let me just make sure. TikTok, you guys still okay there? Making sure. Sorry, somebody thought the live was paused. I wanted to make sure you're still seeing it. Okay, yeah, Callum's saying leave and come back. Okay, good. So first of all, the ground gets wet. As a soldier, you can imagine walking through mud slows you down. Tanks and vehicles get slowed down going through the mud. So that's the first problem. Second problem with mud is a lot of the vehicles like tanks therefore try to run on roads instead, because roads are going to be at least firmer than fields, right? Open fields of mud are going to be horrific. Well, once tanks go on roads or trucks go on open roads, they're on open roads, right? At least in the field, you're hiding behind trees, by bushes or whatever. On a road, you're all lined up as sitting ducks, right? Waiting to get blown up by the other guy. So that's the first problem with it being muddy. Once it starts to freeze over, the ground starts getting easier. It's easier to walk on, and it's easier to run vehicles on. The problem, of course, is it's really, really cold. It's like far below freezing, so that the troops start getting a lot colder, and that can be a problem, especially if they're digging into the ground, if they're staying in their vehicles. If they're staying in their vehicles, by the way, they need the vehicle running to keep them warm, which now is using more fuel, but it also is giving a heat signature, right? So at night, if you're hiding in some trees or whatever in your tank, but you're keeping the tank running so you're keeping warm, your tank is giving off more heat. Some Ukrainian sensors would be able to see that more easily. All right, let me go on here a little bit. As I said, as the ground freezes, the conditions for cross-country movement will almost certainly improve throughout January and into February before thawing in March. So March is when the thaw begins again, and the same problems happens. As it thaws, it starts to get harder to run the vehicles, harder for you to walk, etc. The thaw will then lead to a corresponding deterioration in conditions for cross-country movement. Okay, that's what I just told you. Coupled with the freezing temperatures is an increase in snow cover throughout Ukraine. Snow depth is likely to be a limiting factor for maneuverability, so the snow as well will make it harder to get around. The worsening conditions will be compounded by shortened daylight hours, okay, fewer hours of sun during the winter, making operating conditions difficult for both sides, which will have to rely on cold weather and night vision equipment to operate. Now, the last thing I remember here is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Callum and some of the other military folks, is it not true that the West, and I'm hoping therefore Ukraine, have much better night vision capabilities than the Russians? Am I not wrong about this? I want to say our tanks in particular, that some of our tanks can see farther. I think they can shoot farther, but also they're much better at night. So some of the thought was our tanks would really help the Ukrainians to blow the Russians up overnight, especially. Callum is saying yes. Yep, Sharam is saying yes as well. Okay, that's what I thought. Like 10 to 25 times better at night. Now, does that hopefully include the German tanks that were sent? Or just like the American and the British ones, which were only a handful, right? I mean, the American and the British tanks, we sent them, but it wasn't a ton. Thank you, Stevie Boy, for the gift. You know what I mean? It wasn't a ton of tanks. But German too. Oh, that's good. Okay, that's good at least. That's good at least. Tickety Talk says we actually own the night. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. Nighttime is the right time, according to Malayathos. Tanks are destroyed by FPV drones, not by other tanks. Okay, interesting. Okay, that's good to know, guys. Thank you. All right, that's it for the weather updates. Zelensky is just finishing up a tour of the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Okay, yep. So Leopard tanks do have night vision, Paul. Thank you. That's good. I doubt CNBC is reporting anything like that. Oh, Christian, you're lying. Guys, get rid of Christian. Yeah, Christian's lying. Sorry. Somebody is making up fake news stories. There was billions of dollars of corruption. No, there wasn't. No, there wasn't. I mean, it's ridiculous. Also, CNBC is like the financial arm of NBC. So why would CNBC be reporting on getting a scoop about Ukraine? That wouldn't make sense. Good try, though. All right. Any case, Zelensky. So Zelensky arrived today in the Latvian capital of Riga. Final stop of his tour. He already was in the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius 2 days ago, the Estonian capital of Tallinn, yesterday, Estonian capital of Tallinn earlier today. Latvia announced a new military aid package for Ukraine, including howitzers, drones, munitions, and more. Estonia pledged 1.2 billion euros or $1.3 billion for Ukraine through the year 2027, which is very interesting. First of all, Estonia is 1.3 million people, so that's pretty cool that they're putting up the money because they're not a big country. Secondly, what's interesting about this is they're pledging 1.2 billion euros or $1.3 billion. Who is the gift there? Thank you, Pam, for the heart. Through 2027, that's the next 3 years. What's nice about that, and I was going to say Lithuania, we announced yesterday or the day before that Lithuania, thank you. Oh, I don't even know how to pronounce your name, but thank you, Star Moon person, for the hearts. And thank you, Sean, as well. The Lithuania also announced $220 million in aid over the next 3 years. So you got Lithuania announcing aid over the next 3 years. You've got Estonia announcing aid over the next 3 years. Thank you, Henshi and Marie, and Sean. And what's interesting about that is, and I've mentioned this before, the reason they're announcing aid for the next 3 years, saying we'll give you $200 million for the next 3 years or whatever, is to put the Russians on notice that support for Ukraine isn't going away, right? It's one thing to support Ukraine and say, we're going to give you this much over the next year. It's another thing to say, we're passing a law allocating the money for the next 3 years, and we're allocating it right now so it's available when we need it. It shows the Russians that Ukraine will be funded for 3 years, which, if you're Russian, is a lot scarier than Ukraine funded for 1 year. Because Russia's best hope is that we all cut off Ukraine, right? That the U.S. doesn't fund Ukraine. Currently, the U.S. isn't funding Ukraine. The Republicans are holding it up. But they're hoping that the Europeans also don't do it. And therefore, thank you, Elizabeth, this is the opposite by providing money for the next 3 years, which is what the Baltic states are doing. Denmark did this earlier as well. I want to say I remember, I'm talking months ago, Denmark announcing some kind of aid that was announced for like the next 3 or 4 years, something like that. So anyway, it's a signal to the Russians that they're not going away. Would Ukraine not prefer the full amount right now? I mean, maybe, but it depends what they're allocating. For example, they could be saying, we're going to put it into military contracts that take 2 years to build. Norway too. Okay, Otanbat says Norway too. Okay, thank you, Tom. Right, so it depends. I mean, first of all, there's only so much you can give them anyway, right? So they may not be able to give Ukraine all the money up front. But my suspicion is, well, okay, if you're Ukraine, you'd probably rather get the money right now. But if it's weapons and things, you may not be able to have them available yet, is my guess. Thank you, Tom, again. Bloomberg. Okay, this is the one I want to talk about. Here's a story that I'm going to rant a little bit about. So, quick sip of water. Bloomberg, very good American news service, usually business news, but they do other news too, announces today that President Biden is sending, I guess, Jake Sherman, his national security advisor, who a lot of us think is his kind of one of the problems, that he's one of the problems with helping Ukraine. He's one of the ones trying to scare Biden about Russia and everything else. So Bloomberg announces today, Biden is sending staff to Davos to basically press President Zelensky for a clearer war plan. And this, in other words, and the administration released this publicly, okay? So the Biden administration went public to embarrass Ukraine, basically, on the fact that we are not happy with how the war is going, and we're not happy with their war planning, and we want to hear a clearer plan for victory out of Ukraine before they get our money, is the implication in this article. And I did a video on TikTok, and I said, you know, I'd like to hear a clearer war plan out of Joe Biden, to be honest, if we're getting pissy and bitchy about war plans here, right? What's Biden's war plan? What's Jake Sullivan's war plan, right? Do they even want to win? And I mean that, we've talked about this before. I don't think they want to win. I think they're terrified of Ukraine taking back Crimea, which is the province in southern Ukraine. I think they're terrified of it because Putin's convinced them, I'm going to use my nukes or something crazy that he's not going to do. So they wanted a tie in this war, and they've got a tie. And for Biden, and I think this is, I've said this before, absolutely said this before. If Biden wants a tie in this war, then how are you criticizing Ukraine that the war is now a tie? Thank you, Booty. Now, the real thing, too, is, and Ukraine kind of can't do this. I guarantee you, in Ukraine right now, they're literally sitting there going, Mr. President, you can't say, because Zelensky is ready to go public and say, I guarantee you, he's ready to say what I just said, which is, you want a freaking war plan? Let me give you a freaking war plan. You give us the damn tanks. You give us the damn F-16s that you're still sitting on. How about you give us the HIMARS that you were going to give us? How about you not wait 3-4 months to give us HIMARS? How about you not wait a year to give us Patriot missiles? How about you not wait a year and a half to give us tanks, right? How about you not, the first month of the war, when Poland was going to give MiG fighter jets to Ukraine, The U.S. and Germany both go, no, we're not going to do that. The U.S. killed the deal. So did Germany. Thank you, Alexander. So if we're going to talk about a clear war plan, if I were Ukraine, I'd be very tempted to say my war plan, my clear war plan for victory is that you stop effing around and you start giving us the weapons we need. For example, ATACMS. Forever, Ukraine has needed ATACMS long-range missiles. The Biden administration got shamed into giving Ukraine 19 of the missiles. 19, which is worth maybe 3 attacks. They gave them 19, and Ukraine used them well, but there's only 3 attacks. That doesn't get you very far. In 1 month, from what we've heard, no more. No more. We didn't send any more. And we sent them the wrong ones. We sent them the missiles that can only go a short distance. Ukraine needed the missiles that go a longer distance. We didn't send those. I mean, every freaking step of the way, we have tied Ukraine's hand behind its back. And for us to tie Ukraine's hand behind its back and say, don't attack within Russia, right? We're not going to give you tanks. We're not going to give you missiles. We're not going to give you Patriot. By the way, Patriot missiles, we didn't give them Patriot missiles for a year. Patriot missiles are not offensive weapons. They're defensive weapons. They're not used to attack Russia. Patriot missiles are in order to shoot down Russian missiles that come into Ukraine, that kill individual civilians, women and children and men. That's what Patriot missiles are. Why couldn't we have given those earlier? We waited a year for those? Why exactly? Putin would get mad that we're stopping more Ukrainian civilians from being killed? No, this is what pisses me off. This is what pisses me off with all of this. You know, for the Biden administration to have the nerve to say, we want a clear war plan. Zelensky ought to go, you want a clear war plan? Send me ATACMS missiles, send me F-16s, and send me more tanks. There you go. You wanted a clear war plan. That's the war plan. And I guarantee you he wants to, and I also guarantee you that I see the Russians are back today. This is interesting. We haven't, I don't know, have we had Russian trolls recently or not? They seem to be coming back again, but they're back. She's won too, by the way, clearly. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, so it just, you know, but it's also so freaking obnoxious. It's so freaking rude to do that to the Ukrainians. Biden is doing it for domestic consumption. He's doing it for the Republicans in Congress. Everything about it just, God, it just, you know. But my God, the trolls, we did. So we've got a Russian troll invasion going on TikTok right now. How exciting. We haven't had you guys in a while. Welcome. Happy to see you. Glad to know that my broadcasts are still bothering you. Glad to know that our strong support for Ukraine is still bothering you. Very angry, the little trolls. Good. I like it. Anyway, so it really ticks me off, you know. It just really ticks me off. Our word is not good anymore. No. If Trump becomes president, the word means nothing. If certain other Republicans become president, the word means nothing. You know? Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Biden's great, but Biden is a little chicken. I'm sorry, right? Biden's great, but Biden's afraid of Putin. So, you know, what do you want? I mean, I'm not just sure what to say. He did a good job. He could have done it. Here's the problem I've got with Biden. I don't fault you if the job you do isn't perfect, even if you're president, okay? I fault you, and this is also for people in general. I fault people who can do better and don't do better. So like, it's like having a kid. I've never had kids. I have a dog though. If you get a B on a test, or in Europe a 12, I don't know, and you could have gotten an A, you could have gotten a 15, 16, like in France, and you could have, but you just screwed up and got a lower test score, then I'm going to be pissed at you, right? If you literally studied as hard as you could and you got the test score you got, I'll be proud of you. But in Biden's case, God, they are just, oh, now we have the anti-Semitic trolls mixing with the Russian trolls. This is getting interesting. You know, but in Biden's case, he was afraid of Putin. And that's why, and by the way, not just him, the French and the Germans too. Everybody sort of together caused problems here. Thank you, John. And that's why we didn't help Ukraine sufficiently. And that's why Ukraine is kind of stuck right now, because we all pulled our punches because we were afraid of Putin. I wasn't afraid of Putin. Biden's afraid of Putin. I think it's too easy to say Biden is weak in everything. He's not weak. He provided a lot of support for Ukraine. I mean, we collectively are responsible for Ukraine not being a province of Russia right now. You know, I mean, the West did, and by the way, Ukrainians did a lot of this themselves, obviously, with their own lives. But the point is, working in partner with the Ukrainians, we, all of us, including Ukraine, obviously, saved 80% of Ukraine, right? That is not in the hands of the Russians. That part of Ukraine, thank you, Jason, would be in the hands of the Russians right now had we not got involved. So more credit to us. But the war is in a situation now where it's a stalemate. And to me, this feels like a war that's going to start again. I mean, it's never going to end is the first problem. But even if it ends, whatever that means, thank you, Alexander, in 5 years, in 8 years, the Russians are invading again. They're going to try to take Kharkiv in the northeast. They're going to try to take Kyiv, the capital, and it's all going to happen again. And in 5 to 8 years, we're going to have to decide, do we want to spend the money again? Because we were too afraid to, I don't know what. Biden's advisors have some of the blame, but the problem is the buck stops with the president. I mean, I absolutely have problems with Biden's advisor. Jake Sherman's a huge problem. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs was a huge problem. No idea if the current guy is. But guess what? He's president, right? Jake Sherman isn't president. Jake Sherman can tell Biden, ignore Ukraine. We've got to worry about China, or we've got to worry about Putin's nukes. Thank you, Juan. But when it comes down to it, it's Biden's job to go, no, I worry about Ukraine too, and we need to stand up to the Russians. He got some bad advice, and he accepted it. You know? I mean, Jake Sullivan, yes. Yes. Did I say something else other than Jake? All right, guys. All right, let me keep going. Beep. North Korea may sell Russia a new type of tactical guided missiles. The South Korea's defense minister is warning. Let me see a little more here. Oh, Institute for Study of War. So I think one of you might have mentioned this yesterday. I don't recall this. I don't recall. Oh, that's interesting. Mike says, real quick, Voice of America. Oh, okay, no problem, Stooge. I thought maybe I said the wrong name. Voice of America is reporting that the U.S. and the U.K. are now attacking the Houthis in Yemen, U.S. officials say. And Voice of America News is very credible. And Mike is credible, too. Mike grabs good news. Anything else on that, folks? Let me look really quick as we're talking here. Houthis. Actually, I should look on Twitter. Hold on, because Twitter is usually where I follow a lot of really good military folks on Twitter. Let me see here. 1 second here. Wouldn't be under Ukraine. Would it be here maybe? Let me see. Hang on. Get my glasses on and look here. Yeah. Yep. First photo of American and British airstrikes targeting Houthi terrorists in Yemen. Breaking Voice of America reports that American and British airstrikes are targeting dozens of Houthi terrorist sites in Yemen. Thank you, Ewelina. From training facilities to drone storage facilities. Somebody wrote, Houthis are entering the FO part of FAFO, which is F around and find out. So they're entering the find out part. U.S. Navy helicopters destroy 3 Iranian-backed Houthi gunboats in Red Sea. Oh, no, that was before. What else we got here? This is just breaking now. I don't know that we've got much. On this. Yep, just like checking here. Good. No, I mean, this is important. This is getting more to the Israel stuff, but interesting. Oh, interesting. And then half an hour ago, 40 minutes ago, one of the folks I follow says, U.S.-UK strikes against Houthis seem imminent. Arabia reporting on American-British fighter jets in Yemen airspace vicinity. Well, yeah, we know they attacked. Basically, the Houthis are a group that controls about half of Yemen. Yemen is a country. I really do need to print this map out at some point for you guys. I don't have the Middle. Eva, we need a Middle East map too. But basically, Yemen is a country on between the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf there. Like if you know where Saudi Arabia is, go a little bit southeast of Saudi Arabia. That's Yemen. It's right on the coast there, in the Persian Gulf with everybody else, basically, right? Well, the Houthis control like half of Yemen, and they have been they're aligned with Iran, and they've been attacking commercial ships, claiming they're doing it in sympathy with the Palestinians or something, right? But they've been literally attacking commercial ships. These are the idiots that attacked a ship and took it hostage and were convinced it was Israeli when it wasn't. And remember, we went through all the names of the hostages, and they thought they were basically, what was it? Somebody had posted joke names of the hostages online, and they were fake Israeli names, and the Houthis like published the list to prove that they had Israeli hostages. And one of the names, my favorite name was the name was Eli, like the first name Eli, and the last name Kopter. And thinking this was a Jewish name, Helicopter, like helicopter, helicopter. And they were all sorts of names like this. So these are the Houthis. But they've been going after commercial shipping. They've been going after, like I said, a lot of the commercial boats, pirating, etc., and sending drones and sending some missiles as well, I think. And finally, the U.S. and Britain had enough of it. I mean, they've been causing some real threats to commercial shipping. Let me see here. Let me see. Just looking here, I want to see what else we've got. This is like breaking news. We'll see what else we're hearing here. Well, here, let me go to the people I follow in general, because I think a lot of them should have. Yep. Oliver Alexander, who's very good, who's the guy in Denmark, who was about to go to bed. No, that's very funny. He says, somebody had tweeted, after 157 confirmed attacks on American bases, along with 27 attacks on ships in the Red Sea, coalition allies are responding to the threats. And Oliver, who's very good, Alexander writes, let them know that no one attacks U.S. bases 157 times and gets away with it. He's not wrong. This is funny. I'm just looking here to see what else. Sorry. Anything? I don't know that we've gotten much news on this. Yeah, what are folks? Anything on Sky News? Just seeing what else we've got here of the news. Hang here. Yeah. This is good, though. No, this is good, and it's important. And honestly, there's no choice. They're going after commercial shipping. There is no choice but to try to take them out and to stop them from doing it. There's just no choice. Let me look. I'll look at Sky News too. Hang on. Sky News. Sky News is very good. I find them a good news source. Sky News Houthis. Although I'm trying to find updated news though. I'm finding the old stuff. Okay, Israel Hamas war. It's probably there. Yep. Here we go. Reuters. Okay, guys, hang on here. What we know so far. Ships are facing regular harassment and attacks by the Houthi rebel group. This is from Sky News. By the Houthi rebel group in the Red Sea, with some 27 attacks on vessels since 19 of November. The Yemen-based Iran-backed Houthis say they are targeting any and all ships they believe are linked, operated, owned, flagged, or traveling to or from Israel. U.S. and British destroyers are among an international naval task force set up to combat the Houthi attacks in the area. On Tuesday, a British warship shot down 7 drones launched by Houthi fighters in the Red Sea in an operation with U.S. forces to repel the largest drone and missile attack to date. Today, the Houthi group fired a ballistic missile into international shipping lanes in the Gulf of Aden. See, this is the problem. They're literally disrupting international... They're terrorists. I mean, they're literally terrorists, which, by the way, this should not surprise us. I mean, I don't want to get into that whole discussion because I know it pisses a lot of you off, but there's a very long history of terrorism from a lot of these folks in the region, and this should not surprise us. These are not good people we're dealing with here. But yes, shooting into the international lanes. This evening, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called an emergency cabinet meeting before holding discussions, blah, blah, blah. Now, where's the... Yes, and then the senior Houthi official says, Americans will burn. Our ships and our bases will burn. Well, too bad. Do the Americans, the British, and the Zionists expect that any hostile action against Yemen will distract us from defending Gaza? Actually, yes, we do, because we have enough weapons to wipe you off the face of the planet. I don't think we would do that, but we certainly would cause a lot of damage. So, yes, we do expect that that would happen. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing any big updates on Sky News. Maybe it's elsewhere on Sky, but I'm not seeing it here. So I'm going to go to their homepage and see. Maybe they've got more here. Tell Reuters, but I'm just not seeing. Well, here's the Reuters post. No, that's it. It's a very short little story. Okay. Yeah, it's just a very short little clip here. Check Signal BBC story attached. Attached to where? You're sending, Signal BBC. I'm sorry. Let me pull up Signal. Okay. Very interesting stuff, though. Okay, BBC story. Here we go. All right, Callum sent me a BBC story. Here we go. Oh, BBC has a nice live page. Okay. Beep, 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 beep. Okay. Callum, there is no story. There's no story. It's just it's a one headline. Yeah, okay. It's just a one headline story. It's like one headline, I think. There's nothing there. Yeah, which is fine. But yeah, the airstrikes have begun, but we knew that. Yes. Thank you, guys. Actually, I could put on... No, I can't put on CNN. CNN is okay if I'm live. TikTok, YouTube, I think, wouldn't like it if I had CNN on in the background. I think TikTok would be fine with it, but YouTube would get upset. So, unfortunately, I'm going to skip that, but I'll put on CNN afterwards. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, I'm just seeing what else here, guys. Explosions reported in Sana'a and other towns. I've heard of Sana'a, but I haven't heard of the other towns. The alternative, Stooge says, is indefinite armed patrols for all ships going through the Straits of Aden. That's unacceptable, not just to NATO, but probably to China and even Russia. I mean, you know, this certainly harkens back to CNN's not talking about it yet. CNN always cracks me up because you typically see news online and it takes CNN 10 or 15 minutes to catch up. And it's big news like this where we're like, guys, like start the coverage. And they're like still looking into it. It's very funny. But this reminds me of when was it? I'm trying to remember. Remember when Iran was doing this and going after all the shipping and we finally had to escort the ships? They were going after the oil. I don't remember when it was though. Whether it was the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, I just don't remember what it was exactly that Iran was doing it. But they were going after international shipping, oil especially, and we had to escort. Remember, we reflagged. I believe we reflagged the oil tankers as American or NATO or whatever, but tankers. Was it the 80s with Reagan? I don't remember. Yeah. Iran-Iraq War, was that it? Okay. But yeah, so this kind of reminds me of that. But honestly, there was no way to let the Houthis, there were a lot of things going on too much. One, and again, I am more aggressive than Joe Biden, clearly. Okay. Militarily, I'm much more aggressive than he is. I get the need to be careful, obviously. Especially in the region, we don't want war breaking out with Iran and everybody else. So he's trying to keep things down. The problem is this is what he did in Ukraine. And I said this was what it was. I worried this was going to happen in the Middle East, that we were going to get the same Biden that we've got in Ukraine, where he kind of goes in 50% or maybe 75%, but not 100%. And the fact that we let these guys, as Oliver was joking on Twitter, attack our bases 152 times is a bit ridiculous, right? It's a bit ridiculous. And the Houthis, how long were we going to let the Houthis go after commercial shipping? Now we're taking them on. By the way, let's see how big of an attack this is. I would argue potentially you want to do a devastating attack so these guys can't do anymore. I worry whether the attack is going to be a slap on the wrist, but let's see. Whether it's an attack to say, you better be careful, they're not going to be careful. They're going to attack again. The attack has to be something that literally takes out their capacity. But let's see. And as Daniel just said over on YouTube, I wonder what Iran's response will be. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. Oops, sorry, see a little more here. Oh, thank you, Kashuna. Kashuna. I'm calling you Kahuna Matata. That's cute. Kashuna. Without my glasses, your name could be anything. I did see that earlier, but I forgot to mention it. That was very sweet of you. Thank you. Very generous of you. Thank you. And 6Evo was asking, will the Houthis or Iran respond to this? That's my question. The Houthis will try. Just depends if they've got any weapons left. I'm not sure what the Houthis can really do. Let's face it. Hey, Sophie in Ukraine. Good to see you. Right? I'm not sure what they can do. For Iran, it gets difficult. Iran can be a total jerk in all of this stuff, but at the same time, Iran has a lot to lose. I almost feel like Iran reminds me of Turkey when it comes to Turkey being a jerk about NATO, but we're in this weird situation where we need Turkey, but Turkey needs us, in terms of the Middle East. And I feel like Iran is a similar kind of situation in terms of we don't want Iran to come and enter the war. because it would be a disaster. But Iran doesn't want Iran to enter the war either because it would be a disaster for Iran too, right? I mean, just like Russia. Does Iran really want to get into a war with America in the Middle East? Really? Because I'll tell you who's going to win that one. It's going to be us. You know? I mean, it's going to be a disaster, but Iran, you know, I mean, to some degree. Now, having said that, you know, you look at the Gaza stuff. I mean, the Gaza thing is fascinating on that angle too. As far as, you know, presenting that basically if you can overpower the other guy, if you do it, will you get into trouble for doing it? You know, BBC's reporting the airstrikes have started. Yep, CNN has it now. Update on Sweden joining NATO. There's absolutely nothing. I talked about this yesterday. The Turks are being total idiots. The Turks are doing nothing, absolutely nothing on moving forward. I mean, they did a little bit a few weeks ago, and that was it. I'm going to put on CNN really quick and see what they say. Thank you again for that, Kahuna. Very nice of you. So let me see 1 second here. Here we go. Oh, these guys are good. 1 sec here. Listen to this. U.S. is hitting multiple targets in Yemen controlled by the Houthis. Reports of explosions in major western cities in Yemen. Oh. Thank you, Adrian. Tomahawk missiles launched from Navy vessels and fighter jets. UK might be part of the strikes. We don't know that ourselves yet. Thank you, Cami. Multiple targets across multiple cities. That's good, though. Good. Actually, that is good because then it sounds like it's not just dropping on one little site or something, you know? So that's good. UK is part of the strikes, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. This means CNN couldn't confirm it, so they said the UK might be involved, but they didn't want to say it. Yeah, Game Legend, that's funny. Yeah, Jackson Hinkle is... I wonder. Sometimes I wonder what's motivating Jackson Hinkle. We'll leave it at that. He's a big Putin fan. Putin has warned the West against foolishness in Yemen. Yeah. Blah blah blah. Does this worry me? No. It makes me feel good actually, because you don't have a choice. You've got to stand up. Doesn't mean war. No. It means war for the Yemenis. They're in trouble, but not for any of the rest of us. No. Also, war with who? This is like David versus Goliath. What's Yemen going to do? Right? We bombed Yemen. What are they going to do about it? I mean, it's not a war. Yeah, Hinkle's an idiot. But well, this is interesting, though. This is interesting. I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty big... the problem is, I mean, Cliff is saying, at what point will we attack Iran? The problem is, I don't think Iran gets attacked unless Iran attacks us first or attacks Israel first. Iran has to cross an obvious line, you know? So, Jamie, basically what's going on is there is a group in Yemen. You can Google it. I mean, Google it's the easiest way for you to see. Yemen is this country near Saudi Arabia, near Iran, not far away from Israel and stuff too, but closer to Saudi Arabia, Iran, other guys, and they're on the sea. And there is a lot of commercial shipping that goes around Africa and also through the Suez Canal, right? That cuts through, Africa and Asia or Europe, Middle East. And the Houthis, turn this down a second, the Houthis are a group running like half of Yemen, not even the whole country, but they've got weapons, they're supported by Iran, and they've decided in an effort to show their support for the Gazans and Palestinians, they're going to blow up commercial ships in the area. Basically, and there's a lot of commercial shipping that goes through, international shipping that goes through this area. I mean, China, Russia, Europe, Africa, everybody's ships go through here, Asia. And they just started attacking ships, and they started taking them hostage. Started doing, oh, he's good too. Sorry, this guy's really good. 1 sec. Hold on 1 second here. Right.
ships in the Red Sea.
Right.
Then they could
I'll tell you in a second.
possibly target installations in Saudi Arabia. That could very much inflame tensions throughout the southern Arabian Peninsula at this particular point. So I think we're going to see some
Interesting.
major activity
He's really good.
in the next
This is
24
Colonel
hours.
Layton, former American colonel, very good. He just said that what he sees happening yet next is the Houthis are first going to attack the actual U.S. and British ships and et cetera that are attacking. I mean, I assume British ships are there too. British ships that are attacking Yemen. And the next thing they're going to do is they may start to attack U.S. Bases or U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, things like that. So basically, but here's the problem. I mean, they can do that. I don't know the war plans, but I can't imagine Yemen is much of a match for the United Kingdom and the United States of America. They're not the Russians, you know? They're not the Russians. So I would sooner die than put on Fox News. No, I don't trust Fox News. Cliff, I await your question with bated breath. Very interesting, though. So very interesting. UK warships already shot drones out of the sky. That's true. Yeah. I mean, I assumed you guys. I mean, I knew you had warships in the Mediterranean, but right, you would have had warships in this region shooting down the drones, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. The Brits have strikes from aircraft, ships, and subs. Oh, that's interesting, according to Adventures with Crystals. Okay. Will Iran really go to war with the U.S. over Yemen? Exactly. I mean, now Iran, though, Yemen's an ally, or Yemen, the Houthis, I should say, are an ally. So Iran might feel the need to do something, but you know, it's dangerous. I mean, it is dangerous of a larger war, but there's no choice. The problem is the Yemenis, the Houthis, have already declared war on the world. So there's really no choice. You've got to either let them cease, destroy commercial shipping in the area, which is a real problem, or you try to stop them. So what do? Cliff, we all know Iran uses Hamas and the Houthis, etc., to attack. We must be decisive. Yes. Did you have a question? Kelly, be nice. Be nice. I mean, I appreciate that Cliff is still supportive. Cliff still helps, though, so I appreciate that he does that. And for some people, it is confusing. I don't know why I'm putting the questions with the stings, but But yeah, Cliff, did you have an actual question with that? Because the thing is, Iran is very careful to not cross the line. That's what they like to do. So Iran likes to just push our buttons and do what they can, but not quite cross the line that would cause us to blow them up, basically. Yes, Stooge. Fox's news coverage can be good. I just don't trust them. And honestly, Fox News doesn't have the international reach that CNN does. CNN's experts, I just trust far more than Fox News's. I mean, I just can't. I just can't. You have coins for sale. Oh, Timor, it was nice of you to visit, but you're going to be going permanently in about 30 seconds when the mods get a hold of you. Bye-bye, Timor. Do you think the announcement regarding Sullivan in Ukraine may have been a diversion from this attack in Yemen? No. Not really. I mean, people knew it was coming anyway. I mean, like we said, that the news I was reading you guys, they were seeing the U.S. on the British airplanes. Oh, hold on. Iran's hand is clear in all of these operations and attacks that the Houthis have carried out. See, that's Stutzy. It means he's some kind of scammer. He's trying to get you to give him money, and he will sell you very good things that you'll never see. I'm watching CNN. Huh. Oh. Okay, I missed the actual argument, but the CNN correspondent, who's very good, Alex Marquardt, one of their international correspondents, said that the goal is to de-escalate and send the Houthis a message, a bloody nose that says you don't want to keep doing this, which is what I told you I figured Biden would do with this. That may be a good idea. It may also not be enough of an idea. You know what I mean? Because a bloody nose, you go, I mean, to me, a bloody nose means that you hit them, but you don't hit them too hard. You hit them just hard enough. I kind of feel like you need to hit them really hard. Because if I'm the Houthis, I'm going, he gave us a bloody nose. He's afraid of hitting us harder. He's afraid of things getting inflamed. I'm going to hit back harder. You know? Maybe, Callum. I mean, I hope that's enough. I hope we hit him hard enough. I just worry if it's not hard enough, why would they wake up and go, oh, this is scary? You know what I mean? Maybe. I mean, again, I can see the logic behind it, though. I can see the logic behind it. But it worries me. All right, so Cliffy, did you have an actual, let me see here. Sorry, Annette had something here. 1 second here. Annette, what was the reason for the war between Saudi Arabia and Yemen? I am not up on the Saudi, Yemen, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm just not up on it at this point. I don't remember anymore. I really don't. And I haven't looked at that in a while anyway. Sorry about that. I just don't know. If anybody else knows, to answer Annette, but I just don't remember. Oops. Oh, I didn't see Gila. What did they post? Samantha says, do you think Russia will have a problem with the U.S. and UK attacking Yemen? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They will. I don't think Russia will do anything about it, but they will. I would consider myself hawkish. Yes. Apprehensive, Mona. I would. I have no qualms about using military power. But as I've told you guys before, just like with politics overall and activism, I'm not a big fan of people who just do stuff to look tough, right? You do, whether it's military action, whether it's political activism, whether it's activism on behalf of the Palestinians, you do stuff that has a specific goal in mind and will accomplish that goal. You don't do stuff because it feels good. And like I said, we still have the Palestinian protests here in the U.S. There was one in New York. Thank you, Chezek. There was one in New York in the last couple of days. Thank you, Fred. That they were just shutting down one of the major bridges in New York. And some guy was trying to get to his daughter, who was in Brooklyn, and his young daughter. And he goes, my daughter is in Brooklyn at home. I've got to get to her. Get the F out of the way. And they're, no, we're for Palestine. Blah, blah, blah. And the guy almost ran them over. He got out and he shoved them. And then finally, when he started shoving them, somebody running the protest understood that this was going to get violent fast, and they let him go. But that kind of stuff accomplishes nothing except turns people against you. And I would say military use has to be the same thing. You don't attack people just because it feels good. You attack people because you think it's going to help and you think it's not going to hurt. So, so yes, Russia will have a big problem with it, Samantha. But what's Russia going to do about it? What are they going to do? I don't think there's anything Russia can do. Yeah, just want to make sure, Cliff, if you had a question, unless Cliff was just wanting us to mention his comment. Don't start a fight you won't win. Yeah, well, basically, I mean, don't start a fight that, exactly, if you know, for example, if you know that attacking the Houthis is simply going to make them attack you and attack Saudi Arabia and attack all the people in the area, and you know that you can't blow them up enough to stop them, then maybe you don't do it. But if you know that you can stop them, thank you, Scott, which is what CNN is reporting, that this initial attack is to cause enough damage and to say, we can blow you up badly, stop it. And if that happens, my camera, I'm using my iPad, so who knows why it's doing that, Will. Sorry about that. It's just my iPad. I don't know why it's doing it. Yeah, so... Now, there's also another aspect, though, and I've said this with Israel and Gaza, too. Putting aside whether you think it's good or bad, acceptable, unacceptable, genocide or not, what Israel is doing in Gaza, the one benefit that Israel is getting out of this, thank you, Bryce, is that even people who hate Israel, I don't mean people, I mean countries and terrorists, are going, holy cow, I don't want the Israelis doing this to me. Israel has, at the beginning of the Gaza war, right after the October 7th attack, the discussion was, oh boy, Israel's weak. Israel, who'd think you could pull this off on Israel? Israel is no longer as powerful as we thought they were. This kind of stuff, right? Israel has made clear they're as powerful as we thought they were, and they're happy to use it. Now, you can disagree on the morality of that. That's fine. Thank you, Barbecue Joe. But countries don't operate on morality in the sense of enemies of Israel don't operate based on morality. They operate based on, can I attack Israel and get away with it or not? Can I attack Israel? As Callum said, if I attack Israel, will I end up better off than I did before I attacked them? Israel made clear that if you attack them, they're going to blow the bejesus out of you. An attack on Yemen also has some of that benefit. Even if we were to think that, gosh, it would be really hard to attack Yemen hard enough to stop all of this, to some degree, you want to send an attack to you want to send a message to others that if they do the kind of stuff Yemen's doing, they're going to get blown up hard, and they may not like it. So there is that aspect too. But yeah, the Houthis were attacking international shipping lanes and claiming they were doing it on behalf of the Palestinians, and it's one of the major areas. I was looking at this the other day actually. They were showing all the ships and stuff going around Africa and everything else, and there's a large amount of shipping that goes. Basically you go around India, you sort of come down, and you come down via. You sort of go up and down via Yemen. You then can go the Red Sea, where you go up to the Mediterranean, or you can come down the eastern coast of Africa, right? But there's a ton of shipping that goes around there. And they were attacking the international shipping. I don't know why they were doing it, Samantha. I don't really get it. I don't get what the point was. I don't. My guess would be, and again, Iran had a hand in this. Think those of you who have been following what's going on in Ukraine. Think of what Putin would do, right? You want to make this Israeli thing as big a mess as possible if you're the Russians or Iran. You want it to be threatening a regional war. You want bombs being thrown by everybody so that America goes, this just isn't worth it. Think about it. Think about the Russians in Ukraine, right? All the nuclear threats. It's just not worth it. It's so dangerous what's going on in Ukraine. And I think they just want to make it dangerous. Oh my God. Or as was it Annette or whoever who asked about Saudi Arabia, the war that was going on, the bombings before with Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Oh my God, is that going to start again? Right? Oh my God. Maybe we need to tell Israel to stop because this is just too dangerous. Right? I think that's part of what's going on. Also, I think the Houthis are terrorists. And to some degree, too, you're trying to figure out the logic of a terrorist. And the logic of a terrorist is, I don't like Israel, let's blow things up. So there's that, too. I don't like America, let's blow things up. That's part of it, but I think Iran has a hand in this, as the U.S. government is saying. And if it's Iran, they're saying, stir things up and cause trouble, cause chaos. You got robbed by a Houthi? That sounds like a joke or something. This is very interesting. Very interesting. Navy ship got hit in the Red Sea. Where'd you read that, JC? Well, I was gonna make that joke, Kurosawa, and I thought it might sound a little too nasty, so I didn't do it. There's no point in Russia attacking NATO, Stutzi, which is why their threats don't mean anything. I agree. I think their threats are BS. I think the Russian threats are total garbage. Why am I doing this? What? The broadcast, Andy? I care about it. I've always been into news and media, and I've written for the economy. I've done journalism over the years. I've done a lot of politics, obviously, for like 30, 40 years. I've done a lot of political activism. I've done a lot of internet activism. And 2 years ago with the war in Ukraine, just decided I wanted to start doing this. Started covering the news online with you guys because it pulls together a lot of my background. Thank you, Apprehension. Thank you, Super Hornet. It pulls together a lot of the different things I'm good at. And with Ukraine, I care about it. I don't like the Russians. It's a little more nuanced than that. I'm older than it looks. I studied the Soviet Union in graduate school and law school and graduate school and undergrad. I was alive during the Soviet Union, and the Russians are not that different. Thank you, Bourdain. The Russians are not that different, and I saw them going after Ukraine, and actually pissed me off in 2014 when the Russians invaded Ukraine. I wanted to help then, but I've done enough political. I'm from Chicago originally, but I've done a lot of political advocacy and activism over the years. I was telling you guys yesterday about a story of sort of pissing off Barack Obama. I've got other stories like that. And the work I've done has gotten the attention of presidents and corporations and, what's his face, Bill Gates, that it's shown me that you can make a big difference actually doing stuff like this. So you can have an impact. So I wanted to see if I could have an impact. Hey, Poppy, have a good night. Thanks, Joe. Anyway, long story, but that's why I do this. And it's fun. I've always loved this kind of work. I mean, I say fun, it sounds crazy. Thank you, Salamander. But this kind of stuff is, I love politics. I love news. News is fun to me. Politics is fun to me. Even bad politics is fun. Again, fun is a weird word, but I mean, if you're somebody who, I always compare it to the weather or like weather people, right? And I love the weather too, by the way. Bad weather is fun. Tornadoes are fun. Hurricanes are fun, right? Even though they're not, they are if you're into weather, right? And news is the same. Now, it's nicer for you to say, thank you, Chazak, have a good night. It's nicer for you to say, you can get away with saying, I think tornadoes are fun, right? Because people know what you mean, even though tornadoes are dangerous. When you say, I think war is fun, that sounds a little crazy. Thank you, Leonard. But more generally, so I won't say war is fun. But if you are a news junkie and a politics junkie, it is not fun when nothing happens. It's fun when something happens. It's interesting when things start, when war and chaos and elections and also, right? That's interesting. And it's exciting, but even exciting has a weird, thank you, Jeremy, has a weird connotation to it. You know what I mean? But it is fun. I would say it's more than interesting. This is my work, and my work is fun. It's hard to explain, It's, I don't know. Anyway, it's very hard to explain. Yeah, but even like I said, even tornadoes, I find bad weather fascinating and fun and interesting, and I get such a charge out of it and everything else. Even though it's tornadoes, which is not fun, but it really is. Yeah, well, I think anything you have a passion for is fun. I don't know how else to call it that. You know what I mean? It's a really weird. Well, see, Callum is saying this, and Callum was British military. I would concur. War is fun. It's also hell, but fun at the same time. I mean, but it's fun because you have a passion. I would say you have a passion for military stuff, so that it's. There was an old commercial in the U.S. about the Marines, and what does it say? It's not a job; it's an adventure. And if your work is something you have a passion for, your work is fun. And for some people, their work is dealing with bad things like weather, war, news, controversy, but it's fun because it's your work and you have a passion for it. Otherwise you couldn't do the work to some degree, right? How could you cover politics you take it personally, but if you took it personally, like covering the war, let's face it, guys, covering war sucks in a way, right? I mean, it sucks because you're talking about people, Ukraine, you're talking about people dying every day. So it's a weird, but you have to somehow get energized by it at the same time. Was I around when Shock and Awe began? Of course. Yeah. That was 1991. I was already I was working on Capitol Hill at that point in the Senate. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just interviewing some of the folks on in the Congress. Okay, nothing new on the TV really. Okay, nothing new there. Yeah, I'm with you, Andy. Where are you, Andy? Where are you when you say us? You mean Ukraine or where? Andy on TikTok. Was Shock and Awe 2003? I never know which. I can't remember which is which. That was 2003. I thought it was 91. Anyway, 2003, I was working on my own at that point. I was in my old apartment before this one. Yeah, I mean, I was in Washington still. This one, this sweater I love. Somebody says, where did I get my sweater? You love it. This is the companion sweater to my black sweater I wear a lot that I got in a gas station in France. In the middle of nowhere, France, they have these like gas stations that have, you know, food and stuff like that. And literally this sweater was 15 euros. I have to show because I love my little sweater. 15 euros for this sweater. And it's it's almost like a military sweater. It's a really cool sweater. 15 euros, guys. And I bought 2 of them because I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And this thing has lasted. I bought this thing 15 years ago. It's lasted. Yeah. It's a really cool, this is the thing is that Europe, there is a style in Europe that does not get replicated here. You know, you just won't find something cheap like this that fits like this in the States. You just won't. And especially somebody like me, I find, because sometimes I think I'm not fat enough to be an American, even though I've got some extra weight. The clothes don't fit me here like this. The European clothes fit you. They're like a glove, but they're not a glove. It's not a stupid, but European gas style, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So 15 euros though, guys. I was like, oh my God, you know, amazing. I wish I bought more now. I had 2. I would have bought like 5 of them. You know, I don't wear it all the time, but I wear it for special occasions. Oh, it's crazy cheap. Yeah. I read somewhere too, and it's funny because I do this, that I'm from Chicago originally, which is the Midwest, sort of the middle part of the country, a little bit, even though it's Midwest, it's actually located a little bit Mid-East, basically, but the Middle West, Chicago, farm country, etc. And one of the things I read about there, which is true, if you ask somebody, and I read this once and it's true, about a piece of clothing they're wearing that you like, they will tell you, they will gladly tell you if they got it on sale somewhere. And they'll literally go, oh, I got it at like Marshall's for like $10. Like there's something about the Midwest where we like to exactly that, like tell you the deal we got. It's very funny. I think because it's also showing like I didn't spend a lot of money, like I'm not that kind of person kind of thing too, you know? It's interesting, I think. But it is true. I was like, yeah. Oh, Andy, a Ukrainian living in Ukraine. Oh, okay. I know. Andy, what worries me, Andy says, I'm a Ukrainian living in Ukraine. I'm so grateful for your help, but it just seems the U.S. is tired of it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And honestly, like I said, Biden's goal was to have a tie. And he didn't tell people that. So a lot of people think Biden's goal was to win. So they go, well, Biden's goal was to win and Ukraine didn't win. So obviously Biden's goal failed. So why did we spend $100 billion on failure? Thank you, LWD. And this was the problem of Biden's approach to Ukraine to start with, right? If your goal is to tie, then people are gonna feel like you didn't win. And by not stating publicly that Biden's goal was a tie, right? By making it look like his goal was for Ukraine to win, he set it up so that it looked like we failed. And now people go, what the hell did we spend the money for? Thank you, LWD. No, it's really screwed up. It's really screwed up. I hope U.S. So Annette is saying on YouTube the U.S. will come around. I hope so. I hope so, Annette. You know? Thank you, LWD. I mean, we've been at war for a long time, but you know what? The war has also not been explained. I mean, let's face it. We've been at war, but we're not at war. We're not at war. I mean, we're not at war. Afghanistan and Iraq, we were at war. We're not at war in Ukraine. We're sending weapons. That's it. Not a single American life has been lost, really. I mean, volunteers, but that doesn't count in this context. But not a single U.S. soldier has been lost in Ukraine. Not a single U.S. soldier has been injured in Ukraine, right? We sent weapons. That's it. We sent a lot of weapons, but we sent weapons. I mean, that's what bothers me when people say they're tired. Tired of what? Literally, the war in Ukraine has had zero impact on your life. Zero. At least Iraq and Afghanistan, people knew people. In Washington, I would see young guys missing arms and legs. I mean, stuff where you're like, you knew this was somebody who was in the war, right? With Ukraine, zero impact on Americans' lives, which is also why it drives me crazy when people say that we're tired of this. What are you tired of? There's zero impact on our lives. We're tired of spending the money. Really? Does someone go and take the money out of your pocket to fund Ukraine? Really? Really? You know? I mean, I agree, Stooge, but Lindsey Graham is also now playing games. Because Lindsey Graham said it's the best money we ever spent, and Lindsey Graham now is saying it's okay to cut Ukraine off until we get money for the border with Mexico. So he's happy to play games now, which is typical Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham was Trump's biggest enemy and then became Trump's biggest sycophant friend. So this is classic Lindsey Graham, you know. I hope the U.S. comes around, but oh, Spider, he's good too. So yeah, U.S. We will confront America and make it kneel down and burn its battleships, the Houthis are saying. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Oh, hold on. Spider Marks is very good. Former general. 1 sec, I'll tell you what he says. Right. Oh, video of one of the strikes? Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. Yeah. Anyway. Yemeni channel citing sources. There were casualties in the area that were targeted by American and Britons in Yemen. Yeah. I'm sure. I don't want to put the TV up too loud because I get worried about YouTube getting weird about it. CNN. TikTok won't care, but YouTube will care. So, I always live in an apartment. I've always lived. I was visiting my mother in Chicago for a while. So that's why you saw stuff there. Nothing really new from the CNN. I mean, the general simply said, this is not a surprise what's happening tonight. He said it's not a black swan event. It's a white swan swimming in a pond waving at you. A black swan event is an event no one could have expected. That happened like boom out of nowhere, and oh my God, what do we do? Right? This was to be expected. They've been attacking, well, us and shipping for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So eventually, we were going to have to attack them, you know, and the Brits were going to have to attack them. So that's why he said, you know, let's see what happens next and how this plays out. But this was expected, and I don't think we had a choice, which is what I was saying too. I'm glad this happened because the Yemenis were already, or the Houthis were already doing this. There was no choice, you know. God, what college would you recommend for a political science master? Oh, for a master's, God. Boy, you know, it really depends, Angelina. I mean, okay, first of all, I'm not up on a lot of the colleges anymore, but it depends what you want. Like, I went to Georgetown because I was already going to law school there anyway, and they've got a wonderful joint degree program for law and for business and other stuff, but you can also just get the single degree, a master's in foreign service at Georgetown, which is a wonderful program, a very interesting program. And Sice Hopkins' program is very similar here in D.C. I know Georgetown's because I went, but it depends because that may or may not be. It depends like what you want out of it. Georgetown typically is people who want to work in government and people who want to, you know, become very senior people in government policy jobs. Okay, you know, the King of Jordan was in my class at Georgetown. Abdullah, who's now king, he was in my class. We had a lot of people from around the world that have gone on to be, you know, big business people and politicians and everything else. So, you know, to become a teacher or professor, You could certainly do Georgetown or something. You could do SICE. It depends though, because like that's what I'm saying. Like our schools were much more geared towards teaching you how government functions. So in other words, for example, we would learn about foreign policy, but we would learn it by doing case studies and things like, okay, you're the State Department, I'm the Defense Department. You're Vietnam. Actually, we did this with Vietnam, with the Vietnamese War. I was North Vietnam in the Vietnamese War. And you basically learn what motivates each side and you play it out to see how policy is made. Not just, well, did the U.S. have strong enough weapons? Do the Vietnamese have too much support? You literally went inside their mind and said, what's going to make them back down, or are they never going to back down? It's very interesting, but that's more Georgetown, and SICE might be the same way. Other programs might be more a different kind of teaching for you. You know what I mean? I love Georgetown. I just don't know, for being a professor or whatever, whether Georgetown is best or whatever. Now, Georgetown also has an amazing international reputation, the Georgetown School of Foreign Service. I mean, I know that. I mean, I know that because of all the international students. So, you got Harvard, of course, just because people like Harvard, right? But Georgetown's got a great reputation as far as that goes. But I don't know beyond that. Like I said, I know my school, and Georgetown's, I would argue, the top school internationally for what we do. But anyway, you got it. Yeah. Consider Georgetown at least. I'll put it that way. But you've got to look and see what else works for you. Notre Dame, Stanford. There's a lot of good schools is the thing. You know what I mean? You could go to Tufts. I mean, you could go to a lot of good schools, Yeah, definitely let us know. Yeah, Harvard's reputation is slipping. Yeah, no kidding. Really. I mean, we also may be at the point in this attack on Yemen where we're not going to hear anything for a while, which is my guess of what's going to happen. They're going to keep showing the same videos for the next few hours, and I'm not sure if we're going to sort of hear more, But anyway, American University, I don't know. I don't remember I think they've got a decent poli-sci. George Washington University has I'd say George Washington is better than American, and Georgetown's way better. I mean, Georgetown it just is, reputation for diplomacy, public policy, foreign policy, stuff like that. Thomas Walsh says, a White House correspondent said the president expected to make a statement this evening, but that could change. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I don't think we know anything else here. Yeah, I don't think we know anything else. I think we absolutely did the right thing by striking them. We didn't have a choice. They've been trying to knock everything down. I mean, they've been trying to stop commercial shipping. They've been attacking commercial shipping. There was no choice but to tell them, stop it. And I think my guess is also part of the concern is with Iran, we were able to reflag the vessels, and Iran was sort of like, okay. With the Houthis, I don't know whether these kind of threats make them stop. Like, I worry that we may need to hit them a lot harder, because I'm not sure these are the kind of guys where you hit them and they go, oh, we better not. You know what I mean? We're afraid. Don't hit us again. I think, honestly, it's like Hamas to some degree. Hamas doesn't care what happens to the Palestinian people. Hamas was happy to attack Israel and attack it in such a brutal way that they knew they were provoking the Israelis to do what Israel is doing. Hamas loves what's happening right now. And I worry whether the Houthis are the same way in a way. You know what I mean? Oh, that's interesting. Callum says, I think they've been hit harder than we've been letting on thus far. Now, let me ask you what you mean. Do you mean tonight, or you mean up until now, we probably have done more than has been public over the last couple months to hit them? Is that what you mean? Tonight. Okay. So tonight could be a lot harder of a strike than we even know of at this point. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Sky News is describing it as a massive strike. That's interesting. Okay. The latter two. Okay. So maybe we've been doing more too. This Barack guy's very good. This Barack Ravid. I forget who he writes for. He's very good. A good defense guy. One sec. Don't know anything about Stanford's poli-sci program. I've not. I mean, yeah, I just don't know.
Support of several kinds of support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, and the Netherlands. Something that we did not know until now. And President Biden says in his statement that the main goal of those airstrikes were
Yeah.
to
Okay.
try and
How will this affect us directly? It won't.
to
It won't.
navigation
Man, unless you live in Yemen or Saudi Arabia, or you're a commercial shipper. Oh, he's from Channel 13 in Israel, but he also writes for somebody too. He's very good. But CNN has him as a what do you call it? Somebody, commentator or whatever you want to call it. Thank you, Disco Dave. But he's very good. Yeah. Oh, spider marks again.
We will find out there will be some damage that was
Right.
absolutely spot on, and there will be
Right.
there will be misses in this attack,
Yep.
which means that you're going to be there for a while. And the
Yep.
second part is that we do
I'll
have
tell you in a second.
capability. We do have other partners, as Barack has indicated. That's important, and not every one of those needs to be a shooter. Look, when you have operations like this, you have folks that have to support, they have to watch your back. You got to make sure that nobody's trying to conduct.
One of the points the former general was making is that, you're going to have an assessment after this that looks at what we hit. Did we hit everything we wanted? Did it cause enough damage? Did we miss some targets? Did we hit the targets, but it didn't cause enough damage, right? And basically we may go and hit again. I mean, I would not be surprised if typically with an attack like, well, it depends. Depending on the kind of, if the attack is meant to send a message, then it might be fine where it is. If the attack is meant to actually cripple their abilities to do the kind of attacks that they're doing, then we may very well look at it when the sun comes up with our satellites and say, you know what, there's a couple facilities the missiles didn't hit well, and we hit them again. Oops. Let me just see here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Just looked at my signal message. Have U.S. Marine landed? No. U.S. Marines aren't going to land in Yemen. No. There's no way that's going to happen. It'll be standoff. It'll be just what we're doing. It'll be cruise missiles, bombers. But yeah, I think we'd have to wait. Excuse me, guys. I think we'd have to wait for daylight to see what we hit. Can someone say what happened? Dan is asking. Okay, one more time, Dan. The Houthis in Yemen, who are the bad guys who keep trying to blow up commercial shipping, have taken a lot of ships hostage as pirates and stuff, just got the bejesus blown out of them by the U.S. and the Brits. This was not just for fun. They've really ramped up their attacks on commercial shipping. And this was to basically send them a very strong message. Thank you, Pauline. And possibly crippled their ability, but certainly send a very strong message that stop attacking commercial shipping because the next attack is going to be way bigger and cripple you entirely. So, I'm not sure what you're bringing up about the coal. I remember the coal, but what's your point, Andrew? I just wasn't sure why you're bringing it up. No problem. But very interesting because, exactly as Max just said, the Houthis just found out in the FAFO. Terry Davis says, first strike is always air defenses, followed by command and control, and then offensive assets, right? It may lead to further attacks. I'm sure it will, but you don't have a choice. They're attacking commercial shipping. They have to be stopped. There's no alternative. What's the alternative? Pay them $1 billion to stop? I mean, I just don't, what do you do? There's no choice. They declared war on commercial shipping, literal war. They've got to be stopped by military force. They're already attacking. Well, that's exactly, user 57 just said they're already attacking. That's the thing. They started the war. There's no choice but to try to take them out and to stop them from doing it. And I think this first attack is probably kind of, I still think this first attack, I hope it's a lot bigger than whatever, because I don't think they're going to get the message. I think we have to take out their offensive capabilities, period. So, aircraft and satellites will provide, Oh, boy, excuse me. Oh. See what they're saying again. And then we'll call it quits shortly because we've been going an hour and a half. No, not really random, dude. U.S. and U.K. are fighting to basically stop terrorists. I'm not a fan of terrorists. I know some of you are. I'm not. So when you go after commercial shipping, when you go after basically innocent people on these boats and just attack them and take them, these guys are literally pirates who are getting bombed. Pirates. I'm not sympathetic to pirates. And by the way, I have no problem defending commerce. I don't know why you would. Thank you, Pauline. Why wouldn't you defend commerce? Why? You're going to let someone shut down all international shipping in the Persian Gulf region? Why exactly would you allow that to happen? This, to be honest, it reminds me of people who, when we went and invaded Iraq to liberate Kuwait in 1991, and they said, you did that for oil. Of course we did it for oil. Why the hell do you think we did it? Yeah, oil matters. Oil, there is nothing wrong with defending oil. There's nothing wrong with it. We literally live and die by oil. Of course you have to defend it. You know? But yeah, commercial shipping, somebody has to defend it. Yeah, you damn right. Damn right. This is not communism. Actually, communism didn't work anyway. You know, you have to defend the international economy. Yes, unless, by the way, you'd like to pay a hell of a lot more for the stuff you buy. Okie dokie. You know? Okay, Andrew's a troll. Andrew's a troll. He's a troll. Andrew's going to defend, he's literally defending Saddam Hussein invading Kuwait and annexing Kuwait. Andrew, you're leaving us. You're a troll. Yeah, you're a troll. Bye, Andrew. All right. Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm going to get going. It's been an hour and a half. Very interesting, though. Very interesting. Very interesting evening. All right, well, we're all going to be watching the news now. I thought I was going to play my my Xbox tonight. I guess I'm not playing Xbox for a while. Dogs in your neighborhood. They like Midwesterners. What can I say? All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you for coming by. Thanks for letting me know this was going on, whoever it was that mentioned it first. Very interesting. You have to add me on Xbox, exactly. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, guys, we'll talk tomorrow. I started playing Baldur's Gate, got a little confused because I don't know the controls. But I have been playing, not Baldur's, excuse me. I started playing Diablo and got confused because I don't know all the controls. So I'm shifting to Baldur's Gate since I already had started playing that. But again, I'm going to be watching this for a while too. Yeah, probably a big news day tomorrow, I would think. Are those explosions on my TV? Yeah, that I believe is Sana'a. That's the capital of Yemen. Yep. Yep. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Yeah, burp, burp. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Thanks, mods. Thanks for the gifts and everything. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.